Sung Jin-Woo is a pathetic loser whose father went out to buy milk and never returned, and now he has to provide for his family. In a world where massive gates teeming with monsters spawn randomly, humans with special abilities, known as hunters, are there to save the day. Sung, however, is regarded as the weakest hunter. However, after surviving a double dungeon, Sung's entire life changes. The Jeju Island raiding squad hunters got together 3 years ago to take down the Red Ants. As the battle progresses, the situation rapidly gets worse as the hunters begin to succumb to the overwhelming ants. S-rank hunters Baek Yoon-ho, Yoon-sek, and Min Byung-gyu intervene to save them just in time, which makes these hunters realize that they are just random NPCs. A gigantic white ant threatens Yoon-ho throughout the battle, but Yoon-ho beats the crap out of it with ease. Additional white ants soon join the battle against Yoon-ho and Yoon-sek. Choi Jong-in, who is watching the woodland battle from a city nearby, launches a flaming attack on a swarm of advancing ants and then orders his subordinates to advance. In the present world, Kim is waiting outside the gate where he comes across Park, who also volunteered for this mission since he needs money. In the meantime, another loser named Sung appears at the spot. Park notices that other hunters are greeting him and speculates if he is some big shot, but Kim briefs him that Sung is just a pathetic loser who is regarded as the weakest hunter. According to him, Sung even got injured inside an E-rank dungeon and remained hospitalized for some time. Sung, on the other hand, is listening to all this, but he doesn't mind since they are right. In the meanwhile, Go Gun-hee, the chairman of the Korean Association, discusses the significance of the Mana Stones with Woo Jin-chul, his assistant. In the meantime, Sung has also managed to acquire an E-rank gem, and as he is commemorating this, another goblin ambushes him from behind. He manages to parry the first strike, but his dagger is just as useless as him and gives up mid-battle. Seizing this opportunity, the goblin pierces Sung's abdomen, gravely injuring him. Despite this, Jin-Woo's ass gets saved by his comrades, who are tired of his constant whining. Subsequently, Jong-ho discovers another mysterious cave leading to another dungeon. The group votes on whether or not to investigate it. Ju-hee voted against this, while Jin-Woo cast the final and decisive vote. Amidst all this, some thieves steal a bag from a lady and are attempting to escape. On their way, they come across a mysterious woman standing in the middle of the road. They instruct the woman to leave their path, but the woman, however, gracefully gets back the bag from them. As she returns the bag to the owner, the bystanders recognize her as S-rank hunter Chai Hae-in. Seeing all the chaos, she has no other choice but to escape. With all this going on, Jin-Woo and the others reach the end of the tunnel and come across a massive door. The enormous room within started to fill with blue flames as soon as they walked in. The team is perplexed by the location of the ancient monuments and instructions, expecting to encounter magical creatures and unusual treasure. Ju-hee notices something strange. She informs Sung that she noticed a statue's moving eyes, but Sung ignores him just like my crush ignores me. Suddenly, the massive door closes and one of the hunters decides to call it quits. He approaches the door, shouting that they have underestimated the dungeon and he is leaving. As soon as he attempts to open the door, the statues guarding the door decapitates him. They cannot believe their eyes, as one of their comrades has died right in front of them. Sung, on the other hand, is worried about himself. He wonders if a D-rank hunter can be killed that easily, then he doesn't stand a chance against these monsters. At that moment, he turns back to see the god statue, reminiscing about his past survivals and how he survived some dumb situations. His life has been miserable so far. He has to keep his life online to survive these dungeons and earn some money. And even though he doesn't possess a proper dagger and shoes, he still keeps on fighting. Just because he's the weakest, he has a tendency of carefully observing his surroundings, and at that exact moment, he instructs everyone to fall to the ground as he grabs Ju-hee and lies down. Suddenly, the god statue launches a beam that kills most of the hunters, excluding the ones on the ground. Sung cannot comprehend what is happening around him, and if things proceed like this, he will be killed. The hunters cannot comprehend what is happening around them, and there is utter chaos. With 2 people already dead, they wonder if they will die as well. Ju-hee, on the other hand, has already started tweaking as Sun realizes that she is just as useless as Sakura. Sung attempts to console her, but is of no use. In the meantime, Song approaches him and appreciates Sung for his perceptiveness, otherwise all of them would be dead. Sung, however, deemed himself lucky for noticing all this. Suddenly, he notices that Song is missing an arm as he asks him to stop the bleeding. He actually wanted Ju-hee to heal him, but her mental state is far too weak for that. According to Song, he has participated in multiple B-rank missions, but this monster is way beyond anything he has ever witnessed. He then repeats the commandments of the Kartanon Temple stated on the stone. Upon hearing them, Sung realizes that the god mentioned in these commandments must be the large statue. In the meantime, some hunters are losing their patience, and one of them even attempts to escape. He is way too confident in his speed and goes, "I am speed!" But the god statue absolutely folds him and only his fast feet are left behind. At that moment, Sung realizes something strange and asks Song to repeat the first commandment. Upon hearing the commandment, Sung gradually stands up since he has no regard for his life, and as he notices the monster activating its ability, he settles down. He then instructs other hunters to kneel to the god statue, revealing that he figured the meaning behind the first commandment. Skeptical, Song and the other hunters kneel to the god statue, hoping that it will save their sorry asses. Seeing them begging for their lives, the god statue portrays an evil grin, which scares them. Park realizes that the monster is no longer attacking them and stands up, despite Song's warning. Seeing that they are safe, the others also stand up and start celebrating, even though they did nothing. Sung, however, is still skeptical about this weird-ass situation, and at that exact moment, the monster stands up, scaring the crap out of them. Song questions Sung regarding their next move, forgetting that he's a dumb loser. He realizes that they cannot violate the commandments in this dungeon and repeats the second commandments. Praise the god. Hearing this, one of the hunters volunteers to praise the god since he's been practicing folklore. As he kneels to the god and begins praising him, they notice that God is slowing down, but they were wrong. This praise has no effect on this god as he crushes the hunter beneath his feet. Song instructs the surviving hunters to scatter since it is too dangerous to flock around. Park runs as far as he could and takes shelter under another statue, wondering if he's safe. Suddenly, the statue behind him also begins moving and slashes him into half. Sung cannot figure out how to praise this god since he's basically a demon. At that moment, he notices some statues holding musical instruments instead of traditional weapons and instructs other hunters to gather beneath them. As soon as they stand beneath such statues, they start playing music and don't attack them. Sung also stands beneath a statue alongside Ju-hee, but the statue doesn't move. He realizes that only one hunter can stand beneath one statue and leaves Ju-hee behind. With the god statue following him, Sung is basically running for his life. He somehow manages to survive the god statue, but another statue gets him, cutting his leg off. Now, he and Song have the same number of limbs. Crawling his way, he manages to reach the musical statue in time, and this is how they praise God. With all the musical statues playing their instruments, the god statue returns back to its throne and settles down. Ju-hee rushes toward Jin-Woo and hugs him, noticing that he has lost his leg in the process. She attempts to heal him until blood gushes from her eyes and nose, and she cannot further heal him. Song cannot comprehend what is happening around him and deems it tragic. Kim feels sorry for Song's arm, but he deems this karma. According to him, Song took a rash decision and he deserves this. Another hunter interferes with the conversation, stating that Kim was the one who suggested this, but Kim tells him, asserting that others also voted for this. As they are conversing, an altar appears in the middle of the dungeon. Jin-Woo realizes that they are demanding a sacrifice in accordance with the third commandment. Hearing this, Kim unsheathes his sword and forces Song to sacrifice himself since he is the captain. Song accepts his fate and gradually walks towards the altar. Jin-Woo, however, is satisfied with this outcome since everyone voted for this. In the meantime, as Song approaches the altar, a torch lights up and he questions Jin-Woo regarding this. With no other option left, Jin-Woo asks the other hunters to carry him to the altar for a closer look. As soon as they approach the altar, other torches also light up. He wonders if they wait inside, would others come for their rescue? But Song suggests that it is highly unlikely since the gate will breach. Jin-Woo instructs Kim and Joo-hee to approach the altar as it might light up the other torches as well. Now that all the torches are lit, the door opens with a ring of blue flames surrounding them. Kim wonders if this is a trap, as all the statues begin moving and approach them. Joo-hee immediately closes her eyes, but Jin-Woo forbids her, stating that it is just like that childhood game, and if she closes her eyes, the statues will move closer. In this dire situation, one hunter finally loses her patience and rushes towards the door. She even manages to make it outside, which shocks everyone. Jin-Woo notices that the blue flames will go out over time, and the yellow ones go out when one of them leaves the dungeon. He realizes that this door must be a trap to test their faith in God like other commandments. At that moment, another hunter leaves the dungeon and the door closes slightly more with another flame going out. Jin-Woo instructs the remaining hunters to keep their gaze towards the statues. According to him, the blue flames are a timer and they should be able to leave after all of them go out. Kim, however, contradicts this, stating that it might be a trap and they might get stuck inside. He then expresses his gratitude to Jin-Woo as they made it this far owing to his perceptiveness, but he cannot take it any longer. With this, tears start rolling down his cheeks as he apologizes and rushes outside the dungeon. Now, only 3 of them are left, but Jin-Woo refuses to give up. Song instructs them to leave the dungeon as he will remain behind. As long as one person remains, the door won't close. He then asks Joo-hee to take care of Jin-Woo and leave the dungeon. However, at that moment, Joo-hee collapses to the ground and cannot move her legs. He has utilized so much energy in healing Jin-Woo that her legs have given up. Seeing this, Jin-Woo asks Song to take Joo-hee and leave, but Joo-hee refuses. Jin-Woo hands her the gem he had obtained in the dungeon and asks her to buy a meal from this. Joo-hee cannot believe that Jin-Woo has the audacity to joke around in this situation as Song knocks her out. He then picks up Joo-hee and leaves the dungeon. Even though Sung is alone, he refuses to give up and picks a sword, challenging the statues. Despite his strong will, the statues are literally playing with him. They thrash him all around the room, cutting off his limbs without killing him. With all of this happening, Jin-Woo just wants to survive. Even though he acted strong in front of others, he still wants to live for his mother and sister. For him, Kim is a big fat liar and a hypocrite who just thought about himself. In the end, the statues thrash him onto the altar with blood gushing from all over his body. As Jin-Woo is breathing his last moment, a mysterious notification appears in front of him, questioning if he wants to become a player. Otherwise, his heart will shut down. With no other option left, Jin-Woo accepted this offer. Jin-Woo is lying on the altar as the monster is about to stab him. He yearns to have another chance at life, and at that point, a mysterious notification appears in front of him, and he wakes up in a hospital. He is shocked to notice that his arm and leg is intact, and cannot comprehend what happened. Even though he is stabbed in the chest, he is still alive. Suddenly, Woo Jin-chul, manager of the Hunters Association surveillance team, visits him. He informs Jin-Woo that he had been unconscious for 3 days, which shocks him. He inquires about the other members, including Song and Joo-hee. Jin-chul tells him that both of them are alive. However, since Song lost his arm, he is forced to take retirement, and Joo-hee is still traumatized from that event. Currently, she is undergoing psychiatric treatment, but it would be difficult for her to continue being a hunter. Jin-chul further tells him that the Hunters Association is devastated by this incident. According to him, when members of the White Tiger Guild arrived at the scene, only Jin-Woo was present there, and there were no traces of the temple or the statues. Considering all this, the Hunters Association is suspecting if Jin-Woo had experienced a second awakening. Usually, a hunter's abilities are predetermined at their awakening, but sometimes a hunter can undergo a second awakening that significantly enhances their abilities and rank. Jin-chul and his underlings want to ascertain Jin-Woo's mana and ask him to place his hand on the device. According to Jin-chul, it is impossible for someone like Jin-Woo to survive such a dungeon, and he must have experienced a second awakening. Jin-Woo excitedly places his hand, but much to his disappointment, he is still a pathetic loser. With this, Jin-Chul leaves the room as his underling comments that Jin-Woo's mana is even lower than E ranks, which basically makes him a normal human. Jin-Woo, on the other hand, is wondering why they didn't notice that massive-ass notification in front of him, wondering if they are blind. He attempts to touch the screen, but fails. Suddenly, he reminisces about something similar popping up when he was about to die. At that point, Jin-Ah appears at the spot and begins scolding him for being too reckless. She even warns him if something like this happens again, she will quit her education and find some work so he doesn't have to work as a hunter. Ignoring her warning, Jin-Woo questions Jin-Ah regarding this massive notification screen, wondering if she can visualize this or not. This makes Jin-Ah wonder if her brother has gone mad. Jin-Woo further asks if she knows how to open notifications in a game, as Jin-Ah explains it to him. As soon as he utters the words, "Open the message box," the game responds to his command and another screen appears. With this, Jin-Ah leaves the room and rejoins her friend. Jin-Woo then glances through the details of his first mission, and according to the system, he will be subjected to penalty if he fails to execute the task. His first mission is strength training, which includes push-ups, squats, running, and sit-ups. But Jin-Woo completely ignores the system, asserting that it's just some Saitama-level shit. In the meantime, Jin-Chul is heading towards the Hunters Association and contacts the chairman on his way. He relays everything related to Jin-Woo to him. Chairman Go Gun-hee instructs him to label this incident as a special case and evaluate it accordingly. With all of this going on, the Guildmaster of the Hunters Guild instructs Hunter Cha to join a B-rank commission. Hunter Cha insists that she is confident in her mentorship skills, but Hunter Choi persists that she just has to flaunt her skills, and other hunters would learn from that. He further explains that even though their guild is one of the top 5 guilds in the country, on the international level, they are insignificant. In the meantime, another gate has appeared in the middle of the road, as Jin-Woo is sound asleep in the hospital. As he is sleeping, the time limit for his daily mission has elapsed, and suddenly, the entire room starts shaking, waking Jin-Woo up. Suddenly, Jin-Woo finds himself stranded in a massive desert as a huge centipede appears out of nowhere. According to the system, his quest is to survive 4 hours in that desert as the centipede will follow him. With no other option left, Jin-Woo has to keep running for his life. The nurses at the hospital are worried about Jin-Woo's whereabouts since they cannot locate him anywhere. After 4 hours, the quest ends, and Jin-Woo returns back to his reality, immediately collapsing on the ground. The following day, some hunters contact Ju-hee to participate in a raid since they are short of healers, but she utterly refuses. The hunters understand her circumstances and also inform her about Jin-Woo awakening, which relieves her. The following day, Ju-hee visits Jin-Woo at the hospital, only to witness that he's been sternly training since his awakening. Hearing all this, Ju-hee returns back. Jin-Woo, on the other hand, has finished his task for the day. He has learned a lot in the past few days, including the fact that these screens are not hallucinations, and whenever he completes any quest, he gets rewarded. These rewards include instant recovery, stat points which he can allocate to different attributes, and mystery boxes. In the beginning, he is allocating all his points to strength, which he is lacking the most. These mystery boxes usually contain some random items like pens and some other stuff, but this time around, he has acquired the key to an instance dungeon. In the meantime, gates have been appearing all over Korea, and hunters are preparing to subjugate them. Jin-Woo also visits his mother, who is suffering from a rare condition known as final rest, and owing to its unknown etiology, the modern medicine can only provide life support. Jin-Woo has been trying his very best to support Jin-Ah's education and pay for her mother's hospital bills. Being the weakest hunter, he's been discriminated against and bullied, but it's time to turn it around. With this, Jin-Woo reaches the Hapjeong station to participate in the instance dungeon. He's prepared to quit the dungeon if things go south this time, and with this, he uses the key to access the dungeon. As soon as he enters the dungeon, the entrance seals itself, which shocks Jin-Woo. He also realizes that he is an entirely different dimension, so no one would help him. His initial plan was to run away, but now that the dungeon is sealed, he has no other option but to clear it. Suddenly a message pops up, stating the conditions to leave the dungeon. He wonders if he can beat a boss all alone, but he has no other choice. Upon entering the dungeon, he comes across some goblins against whom he used to struggle. Despite all that training, Jin-Woo is still struggling against mere goblins. His past trauma and experiences are holding him back, but he realizes this soon enough. He eventually manages to kill a goblin, and this grants him the confidence boost he immensely needed, and with this, he takes out the other 2 goblins as well. As Jin-Woo is acknowledging that he's gotten stronger, another monster appears out of nowhere, and this time around, it is a massive dog. Jin-Woo attempts to parry its initial attack with his dagger, but the monster ends up shattering the dagger into tiny pieces. Jin-Woo realizes that this monster is far superior to the goblins, and suddenly, his legs stop moving. Jin-Woo thought that he wasn't traumatized from that tragic incident, but against the face of death, his body responds against his mind. Even though he somehow manages to dodge a lethal strike, the monster still scratches him. Jin-Woo knows that he doesn't have a healer with him, which makes things even more complicated, and a single blow would be enough to take him down. In despair of facing the wolf magic beast that appeared abruptly after having just defeated a bunch of goblins, with his dagger now broken, Jin-Woo discovers that he has gained impressive agility that allowed him to dodge the steel-fanged wolf. He takes the courage to fight back, but to his surprise, he is now capable of sending a powerful blow to the magic beast, sending it flying against the wall. However, Jin-Woo knows that he will not be able to take down the animal bare hand. He tries to flee as the beast chases him and thinks for a weapon to use. He discovers that he has access to his inventory provided by the system, allowing him to take out the sword that he got at the double dungeon that was left by Kim Sang-shik to kill the wolf. 2 more steel-fanged wolves appear. Jin-Woo tries to swing the sword at one of them, but is stopped by the beast's jaw. He inputs more force into his weapon, dispatching the wolf. The second wolf, hesitating to attack, flees. Now alone again, Jin-Woo checks for his stats and acquires items instead of magic gems, which he uses to sell to obtain currency in the program. Now thinking how to defeat the boss of this dungeon, Jin-Woo spots countless more steel-fanged Raikens that emerge from the dark. Determined by courage, Jin-Woo rushes to dispatch more of the wolves and comes out victorious, slaughtering all of the beasts. He checks his inventory and grabs one of the items he just acquired, a teleportation stone, before walking down into the hallway of the dungeon. Outside, Lee Joo-hee picks up a call from the Hunters Association notifying her that the gate had a dungeon break. She feels guilty about rejecting their request and agrees to participate as she listens to the person on the phone saying that they're lacking healers. Back in the Instance dungeon, Jin-Woo realizes he has grown stronger, now understanding that the colors of the Magic Beast's titles reflect their strength relative to his own. White for low, orange for similar level, and red for higher level than him. Despite his doubts about facing the dungeon's boss, he bravely descends the stairs he encounters. Initially greeted by silence in an expansive sewer, he soon detects water waves rushing towards him, signaling an imminent threat before being slammed against the wall. Recovering, he faces the dungeon boss, the snake magical beast known as Blue Venom Fanged Kasaka. Taking a brief moment to examine the appearance of his enemy, he tries to strike a blow with his blade with no result of damage. Jin-Woo is sent into a body of water nearby by the snake's tail, where he barely dodges its head. Emerging to the surface, he barely dodges a train that is thrown onto him. Standing up to proceed with the battle, a flashback appears of Jin-Woo's conversation with Song Chi-eul, telling him that he has been nicknamed as the weakest hunter and encourages him to work harder to prove them wrong. Kasaka relentlessly dominates the battle, propelling Jin-Woo through a wall with its formidable strength. Despite multiple attempts to penetrate the snake's scales with his broken sword, Jin-Woo ultimately abandons the weapon, opting instead to leverage the enhanced strength from his heightened stats. With his own blood streaming down his face, he grapples with the neck of the snake. He intensifies his grip, seizing the snake's scale armor as the creature thrashes wildly. Through sheer force, Jin-Woo eventually manages to exert enough pressure to kill the beast. He acquires the Kasaka's Venom Fang, a dagger made from the boss's fangs. The snake's corpse, along with the dungeon, disappears, reverting the instant dungeon back into the Hapjeong subway station. As he takes the stairs to exit the dungeon, he is spotted by a soldier who scolds him for being here before realizing that he is a hunter and guides him out of the site. As he follows the soldier, he asks him if magic beasts have got out after a dungeon break. The man replies that most of them were killed with the giant one left, which is something that Jin-Woo could feel and detect its location as a result of his advanced senses granted by the system. The massive blue stone golem is being fought by a group of hastily assembled E and D rank hunters, struggling to even breach its defenses. Behind a military barricade, civilians, including Jin-Woo, watch the scene unfold and take pictures. The onlookers appear almost to taunt the hunters, displaying a mix of annoyance and disdain towards the unfolding dungeon break. Jin-Woo quickly realizes the hunters are outmatched by the beast and notices Ju-hee among them, struggling with her healing magic due to the trauma from the double dungeon. Recognizing the boss as merely D rank, lower than the C rank fanged Kasaka he recently defeated, Jin-Woo decides to intervene. He prepares to throw the broken sword from Kim Sang-shik that he wielded against the previous boss. As the hunters teeter on the brink of defeat, Jin-Woo's sword pierces the golem eye and defenses, turning the tide and enabling the hunters to vanquish the monster. The tanker among the hunters is puzzled by the sudden breach in the golem's defenses, given that their previous attacks had been futile. Spotting a broken sword amidst the debris, he inquires of a nearby soldier about who launched the sword that struck the golem. The soldier responds that it was the work of an unidentified hunter from the back, who has since disappeared. Astonished by the immense power behind the act, the tanker is left speechless, wondering if it was a highly ranked hunter. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo, having already departed from the scene, muses that the golem might have been weakened before his sword throw. Ju-hee catches a glimpse of him in an alley and wonders if he was the one responsible. At the hospital, a group of nurses have started simping over Sung's remarkable physical progress. As they converse, Sung demonstrates various exercises, including push-ups and squats. A nurse informs Sung that he's being discharged from the hospital that day, and she requests his contact details, which scares him because he's never felt the touch of a woman. Next, the scene shifts to an interview featuring a woman conversing with Baek Jin-Han-ho, an S-rank hunter. The interviewer poses inquiries about both his everyday life and his experiences as a hunter. Baek Jin-Han-ho, with his stoic demeanor, provides insightful answers that reveal the dedication and sacrifices required of S-rank hunters. He speaks of the constant danger they face, the rigorous training they undergo, and the responsibility they bear for protecting humanity from the threats of dungeons and monsters. Following this, we see Jin-Ah at home, watching the interview with a mixture of admiration and concern. Baek Jin-Han-ho's words resonate with her, reminding her of the dangers Sung faces as a hunter. Despite her worries, she believes in her useless brother's strength and determination, knowing that he will always strive to protect those he cares about. Realizing she's behind schedule, Jin-Ah calls out to Sung, who is in the other room. Upon glancing at him, she observes a change in his appearance. His once frail and sickly frame has been replaced by one of lean muscle and strength. This makes her realize that he must be taking steroids, for Sung claims to be natural, like all these fitness influencers. After handing Jin-Ah an umbrella with a safety reminder, Sung checks his player log and realizes he hasn't yet finished his daily running task. Reviewing his status, he discovers remaining points from his previous trial and deliberates on which stat to allocate them to. This decision weighs heavily on him, as he knows that every point counts in his quest to become the strongest hunter. Following that, Sung receives a call from his landlord regarding overdue rent. Although the landlord offers to extend the due date, Sung assures him he'll settle the payment promptly. Sung then ponders potential avenues for quick and sufficient earnings. He considers taking on more dungeon raids, participating in higher-ranked quests, or even taking on side jobs to supplement his income. Eventually, after fulfilling his running task, Sung claims the rewards for completing his daily quest. Later, Sung encounters Hwang Dong-suk, whose comrades mock him for being recognized as the weakest hunter and deem him a pathetic loser.
Emotional damage!
Hwang intervenes to pacify his companions and outlines the task he requires Sung's assistance with during their C-rank dungeon venture. He clarifies that while they won't share the loot, they intend to compensate Sung generously for his aid. Sung discovers that Hwang's party lacks a healer and raises the issue with him. Hwang explains that he usually operates without one, which slightly bothers Sung. Despite this, Sung agrees to Hwang's contract. Later on, another loser named Jin-Ho, a D-rank hunter, approaches Sung and reveals that they are both pursuing the same prize. Prior to Hwang and his companions entering the gate, Jin-Ho expresses concern about their safety. Sung reassures Jin-Ho, explaining that the gate's size doesn't necessarily correlate with the dungeon's level of danger. Instead, he mentions that the magic power level of the gate indicates the difficulty of the dungeon inside. While navigating through the dungeon, Sung educates Jin-Ho about magic stones and their various functions. Prior to Jin-Ho's further inquiries, Sung instructs him to stay silent. Taking advantage of the moment, Sung listens keenly to the ambient sounds in the area to identify the type of magic beasts present. Recognizing them as insect types, Sung informs Hwang accordingly. With Hwang and his companions maintaining vigilance, they display exceptional teamwork in combating their ant adversaries. While Sung commends Hwang and his team, he senses there's still room for improvement. He detects a hint of unease. Meanwhile, Hwang and his companions appear to have vanquished all the ant monsters. Hwang instructs his allies to collect all the essence stones for distribution. Impressed by Sung's instincts, Hwang receives a warning from another ally about the possibility of a more formidable magic beast lurking in the dungeon. At the same time, Sung advises Jin-Ho to stay vigilant when Jin-Ho mentions his father's gift of expensive gear for his inaugural raid. After a brief interlude featuring Baek and fellow hunters, the narrative follows Sung and his party's exploration of a C-rank dungeon. Sung expresses concern over the seemingly advantageous deal offered by Hwang. Jin-Ho, seeking clarity, requests to review Sung's contract and raises questions with Hwang. Hwang urges the group to prioritize transporting the crystals out of the dungeon before confronting its spider boss. Regrettably, one of Hwang's associates had not anticipated discovering a cave abundant with mana crystals, thus failing to bring along the necessary excavation equipment. Hwang instructs Jin-Ho and Sung to stay put while they retrieve the mining tools from his companion's truck. Reflecting on Hwang's earlier remarks, Sung senses discrepancies in their situation. As they depart, Hwang orders his ally to seal off the boss's chamber. Jin-Ho and Sung realize they've been deceived, prompting Sung to recall warnings from a former comrade about dubious expeditions. Jin-Ho expresses anger at being betrayed for the sake of mana crystals by Hwang and the others. Determined to confront the spider, Sung urges Jin-Ho to stand aside as he prepares himself to battle the boss. Meanwhile, Hwang and his companions appear from the gate as one of them asserts that they should have murdered Sung alongside his ugly lackey. In response to this, Hwang tells him that he doesn't give a shit about Sung being the weakest hunter since they cannot risk awakening the dungeon boss. He further postulates that the boss will get rid of them and get back to sleep. This will allow them to haul out the mana crystals as he further comments on Jin-Ho's gear being extraordinary and asserts that they can sell his equipment if they fail to clear the dungeon themselves. Amidst all this, he questions his companion if they could take down the boss themselves, to which he replies negatively. Acknowledging his own limitations, Kyo Hwan admits to his inadequacy against the spider boss, a sentiment echoed by Hwang himself as he grapples with the reality of their impending confrontation. Meanwhile, within the spider's lair, Jin-Ho harbors doubts about Sung's ability to vanquish the formidable foe. Sung, on the other hand, also acknowledges his weak ass and compares this boss to the ones he fought earlier, including the blue Phantom Fang Kasaka and that golem. Despite all this, Sung doesn't feel intimidated by the boss and realizes that he has gotten strong enough to stand against a C-rank boss. Amidst all this, Chairman Go Gun-hee and Woo Jin-chul are heading somewhere as Go Gun-hee comments on how hectic his schedule is. Woo Jin-chul, on the other hand, attempts to cheer him up by asking him some random questions. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo is up against the spider boss as he comments on how hard its exoskeleton is and realizes that one false move can lead to his ultimate demise. At this point, Jin-Ho has also realized that Jin-Woo is definitely not an E rank, and wonders if he's a false ranker who has registered himself with a lower rank by controlling his mana. My man literally pisses himself while contemplating his life decisions. Amidst all this, Jin-Woo notices that his fatigue level is rising, and if it rises some more, it'll be difficult for him to keep up with the boss. He further comments on the dagger's special ability, paralysis, about how it is the key to defeat this boss. Just then, the spider spits out acid just like my toxic ex, which shocks Jin-Woo and he backs off. With no other option left, he uses his special skill dash and eventually manages to strike the boss. But it is still not enough as the monster smashes him away. As it is about to finish him off, Jin-Woo pulls out his MC plot armor and uses full recovery to recover himself. With this, he finishes off the monster in no time, and the ugly-ass monster falls to Jin-Woo's thick plot armor. Now that the battle is over, Jin-Ho suddenly offers to gather the mana crystals himself, which shocks Jin-Woo. Suddenly, Hwang and the others also appear at the spot and are pretty surprised to see them alive. Meanwhile, Chairman Go Gun-hee is beating the living shit out of Woo Jin-Chul and makes him realize his true worth as a pathetic loser. Meanwhile, Hwang and his useless lackeys wonder if the dungeon boss was a weakling, as they assume Jin-Ho defeated him. They instruct him to kill Jin-Woo and become their accomplice, but Jin-Ho utterly refuses them, just like my crush refused me, and sides with Jin-Woo. Just then, Jin-Woo receives an urgent quest to kill 6 humans, which shocks him, as suddenly, one of them smashes him into the wall. Jin-Woo was hesitant to kill humans, but their actions have made him realize that he lives in a world where survival of the fittest is the reality. He also notices that the system wants him alive for some reason. With this, Jin-Woo walks up to them, but the useless lackeys underestimate him as one of them approaches him nonchalantly and gets folded immediately as Jin-Woo beheads him. Seeing this, Hwang and the others ambush him, but all in vain as Jin-Woo kills them off one by one. Jin-Ho comments that Jin-Woo is even stronger than when he fought the dungeon boss. Even Hwang fails to comprehend all this as he wonders if Jin-Woo was hiding his true potential all along. He then questions Jin-Woo if he was the one who killed the dungeon boss, but gets ignored completely. He then reinforces his body in an attempt to take down Jin-Woo. He acknowledges Jin-Woo being a monster, but he's confident in his own abilities as well since he's a C rank. He attempts to strike Jin-Woo with all his might, but my man Jin-Woo proves too much for him as he smashes his face into the ground. With no other option left, Hwang literally begs him to spare him and even offers to pay him. Jin-Woo, on the other hand, pays no heed to his prying as his ice-cold eyes strike fear into Hwang's soul. As a last resort, Hwang attempts to threaten him using his brother's name, but Jin-Woo decapitates him without mercy. Seeing this, Jin-Ho starts puking as the dungeon falls apart. Jin-Woo takes him outside the dungeon, where they report that the other members died during the boss fight, and only 2 of them survived. The Hunters Association fails to comprehend how an E-rank and D-rank hunter survived, while the C-ranks failed to make it back. Jin-Ho somehow handles the situation by taking the blame upon himself, and the dumb officer believes him blindly, after seeing his badass equipment. After this, a man hands Woo Jin-Chul documents regarding Sung and Jin-Ho's dungeon expedition, alongside Hwang and companions. Although the man expresses concerns, Woo shows little interest in investigating personally. However, as the man reveals more details about the expedition's participants, he attempts to arouse Woo's curiosity. Sung arrives home with a variety of tasty dishes, including chicken. Jana welcomes him, and Sung reassures her that he can manage their medical bills and other expenses for some time. Over their meal, Jana inquires about Sung's latest dungeon adventure, showing concern for his well-being and that of his companions. Reflecting on his experiences, Sung feels he has undergone a transformation. Jana detects a change in Sung's appearance and checks in on him, expressing concern. Sung reassures her that he's fine apparently, but deep inside, he acknowledges his determination to grow stronger and survive. He admits that he would adopt extreme measures if necessary. Suddenly, the player log system alerts him that the beverage he's drinking is harmful. Upon returning to his room, Sung resumes drinking the alcohol, but notices he isn't getting intoxicated. He speculates whether the player log system is responsible for this. Suddenly, the system informs Sung that a reward he received from the double dungeon is preventing intoxication. Sung then realizes that this is also why his limbs regenerated after the incident. Afterward, Jana wakes up Sung from sleep and informs him that Jin-Ho is requesting a meeting at a cafe. During the meeting, Jin-Ho shares his plan of forming a strike team and invites Sung to join him on approximately 19 dungeon expeditions. Although Sung initially tries to depart, Jin-Ho persuades him to stay like a clingy stalker. Jin-Ho then reaffirms his ambition to attain the status of a licensed guildmaster. Expressing his plan, Jin-Ho mentions requiring 20 raids to fulfill his mission. counting the one he and Sung undertook together. He discloses his father's intention to establish a guild for business reasons, emphasizing the desire for an S-rank hunter guild master and his brother as the second in command. Sung points out to Jin-Ho the scarcity of guild masters globally, with the majority already associated with guilds. He further queries whether Jin-Ho's father intends to recruit a guild master from an existing guild. Sung expresses his concern that such an action would attract negative attention to Jin-Ho's father's business, believing it to be an unwise move. Jin-Ho presents Sung with a portfolio containing documents related to a building his father proposes as the guild's headquarters. He mentions its current market value of 30 billion and offers this as compensation if Sung assists in completing 19 successful raids. After careful consideration, Sung politely declines Jin-Ho's offer. Despite Jin-Ho's attempts to persuade him, Sung respectfully takes his leave. At this point, Jin-Woo has realized that Jin-Ho is a poor simp and a pathetic loser, of course. In the meantime, the scene shifts to Hwang's brother, Dong-Soo, who requests someone to gather information on the individuals involved in the raid with his brother and his team. Laura, a woman, provides Dong-Soo with a document detailing the incident. Dong-Soo suspects foul play in his brother's death and inquires with Laura about the consequences of committing murder overseas. Dong-Soo listens to Laura's insights and addresses his scheduling issues with her. He expresses his desire for Sung and Jin-Ho's survival so he can seek revenge in due time. Meanwhile, while out jogging with Jin-Ah, Sung engages in a conversation about what she would do with $30 billion. Increasing his pace, Sung moves ahead of Jin-Ah. He then checks the player log system and realizes he has exceeded the running requirements for his quest. Curious about the upper limit, Sung keeps running. Eventually, he discovers that the system has a cap. Moreover, he observes that the daily quest has transformed into a covert one. Sung then reviews the rewards from the quest and finds a blessed random loot box. Upon selecting it, Sung unlocks the Demon Castle's key. According to the item description, Sung can use it to access an S-rank dungeon named the Demon's Castle. Conquering it will provide him with the ingredients for the Elixir of Life, a magical potion capable of curing all illnesses. Sung visits his mother, pondering whether this elixir could heal her. Prompted by the player log system, he hurries to the designated area to utilize the key. Upon entering the dungeon, Sung decides to rely on the teleportation stone he kept from his previous instant dungeon venture in case of emergencies. He encounters a formidable magical creature known as Hell's Gatekeeper, Cerberus. Despite employing his weapons, enhancements, and abilities, Sung finds none of them effective against Cerberus during their battle. Sung tries to utilize his teleportation stone, but Cerberus strikes him, causing him to drop it. From his player log store, he purchases some potions, yet they offer limited assistance. Sung then recalls having Kasaka's venom gland in his inventory. Opting for this option, he consumes the potion. Empowered by the item and after multiple attempts to cripple Cerberus, Sung emerges victorious owing to his insane plot armor. Following a recovery period, the player log system notifies Sung of newly unlocked features. Sung also notices an additional notification and chooses it, obtaining a small document like reward. Subsequently, the player log system instructs Sung to locate 3 items essential for crafting the Elixir of Life, which are located within the Demon's Castle. Aware of the danger, Sung realizes that entering the castle immediately would likely lead to his demise. As the episode concludes, Sung declares his intention to explore the castle at a later, safer time. Sung embarks on a deeply self-analyzing journey as he pays a visit to his mother. His thoughts are consumed by the trials and tribulations faced within the unforgiving confines of the S-rank dungeon. The weight of his experiences lingers heavily upon his shoulders, serving as a reminder of the difficult path that lies ahead. He recognizes the dire need to boost his strength before starting his quest to obtain the desired ingredients for the Elixir of Life. So, he decides to search deeper into the depths of his abilities, pushing the boundaries of his limits in pursuit of mastery. After that, Sung and Jin-Ho meet at a cozy cafe to talk about their plans. Sung agrees to join 19 easy C-rank raids, but he insists on only teaming up with Jin-Ho. This makes Jin-Ho unsure because usually they need more people for these missions, but Sung suggests they can hire more help, like Hwang did before. After some talking, Jin-Ho agrees to go along with Sung's idea, even though he's not totally convinced. Meanwhile, Hai-in is training really hard to get better. She's very determined and doesn't give up easily. Then, a mysterious person named Jin-Han shows up, adding more mystery to Hai-in's story. In another part of town, Jin-Ho and his dad have a serious talk in the car. Jin-Ho's dad talks about how things changed when the gates and dungeons appeared. He wants to start his own guild with Jin-Ho, showing how much he wants them to be independent. He knows that independence and power are a blessing which pave the way to a happy life. Sung tries really hard to improve himself, but he feels disappointed when his efforts aren't recognized. It is a natural thing to get disheartened when one's efforts don't get the appreciation they deserve. He checks his player log, but doesn't see any rewards for his extra work. This makes him think about what he can do to get better. He tries opening his loot boxes, hoping for something good, but he only gets a bingo card. Despite this, Sung doesn't get frustrated and decides to keep trying to get better, even if it's tough. Amidst these trials and tribulations, the Hunters Association extends a call to arms for a low-level mission. It compels Sung to reluctantly accept the assignment despite his yearning for more exciting challenges. Similarly, Joo-hee finds herself trapped in the complex web of familial obligations and professional desires. She is stuck between the expectations of her kin and her passionate desire to parallel Sung's unwavering dedication to his craft. In the world of solo leveling, the complex mixture of relationships and dreams shows how deep and complicated the story is. Each character deals with their own struggles and hopes, all happening in a society that's almost falling apart. As Sung and his friend prepare for tough times, one thing is certain: discovering who you are and learning new things is risky, but full of exciting possibilities. Next, we see Song and his student talking about their sparring session. Suddenly, Song gets an urgent call, and his student asks if he's retiring. Song gets why his student might think that, but says he still wants to help society. Later, Baek confronts Choi, angry that Choi made him do an interview that was supposed to be for Choi. Choi shifts the topic and tells Baek about Jin-Ho's dad starting a guild. Baek mentions he already knew and asks why Choi called him. Before Choi can respond, we switch to Joo-hee talking to her mom on the phone. Being a typical Asian mom, Joo-hee's mom wants her to stop bitching around and return home, but she refuses and hangs up the call. Joo-hee asks her mom to respect her choices and hangs up. She thinks about Sung's actions and decides to push herself more. Then, she gets a message from the Hunter Association about the D-rank mission, just like Sung did. Meanwhile, Hai-in meets Choi in his office and mentions getting a business offer from a Jin-O-Jin construction scout. Hai-in informs Choi that she turned down the Guildmaster offer and asks him to explain what he and Baek talked about. Then, we see Baek at a bar, thinking about his chat with Choi regarding the failed raid and Jeju Island. Choi is frustrated that society has forgotten about the disaster there, unlike him. He wants to fix the situation and shares why he needs everyone to cooperate. Following that, we witness Song meeting up with Sung. They quickly update each other on their plans for the D-rank dungeon summons. While they're talking, they spot Joo-hee, Park, and someone else entering the dungeon. Before they can talk more, several members of the Hunters Association and some prisoners show up. One associate clarifies that C-rank prisoners will accompany our heroes on their dungeon expedition as replacements due to staffing shortages. Assuring that these prisoner hunters will behave appropriately, she mentions they will be supervised by Inspector Kang. Kang introduces himself to the group and assures him he will oversee the prisoners. Song then asks Sung if he's willing to take on the leadership role, despite past events during their double dungeon expedition. Sung agrees, and the episode concludes with Song leading the heroes into the dungeon.